सर मैं सुबह से खड़ा हूँ एक्चुअली मेरा शॉप है इधर से 5 किलोमीटर आगे गर्दन तक पानी है
उनको खाली करना ही पड़ेगा और तो कोई चार नहीं सब बोट में ही आ रहे हैं
Well, it's something Chennai has never seen before. The worst rains in 100 years, bringing normal life to a standstill. It's left industry on its knees. We'll bring you ground reports from a city which is literally underwater. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. Devastating scenes from Chennai, Kritika.
Absolutely, Shireen. And here's one more piece of news that shows the scale of the disaster there. That airport will remain shut till the 6th of December, which is still this Sunday. So the devastation is continuing.
That's right. Here's hoping Chennai can find the energy to fight back, and we do hope that the rain gods now continue to not play spoiler. But here are some of the other headlines that we're playing for you this Wednesday evening. Let's start with the one that offers a great deal of hope. Zuckerberg'S baby is born with a $45 billion surprise. The Facebook founder and his wife decide to donate 99% of the shares they hold in the company to charity during their lifetime.
In a bid to keep fiscal deficit in check, the centre plans to prune its projected spending due to the 7th Pay Commission by up to 25,000 crore rupees. Some perks to central government staff may not be rolled out, and some allowances could see staggered payments. That's an exclusive.
The RBI is one of the best capitalized central banks in the world, even after paying the 67,000 crores as dividend.
More fiscal cushion for the government. RBI Governor tells CNBC TV 18 the central bank is equipped to pay 67,000 crore rupees dividend for the next 3 years. That's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive.
Exports are struggling, but dollar continues to pour in. FDI inflows have risen 13% in the first 6 months of this fiscal. Computers and hardware industry top the charts, but not a single penny has gone into the defense sector.
Wipro makes its second major acquisition this year. Will shell out over 73 million euros to buy IT consulting firm Cellinet. Will expand its footprint in Germany, Austria and Switzerland.
And in the wake of the Volkswagen scandal, the centre moves to advance the rollout of new stricter emission rules. Auto industry opposes that move. Another exclusive. The BJP manages to retain all the 6 major municipal corporations in Gujarat in the civic polls, but the Congress makes major inroads in rural Gujarat. After 18 months in power, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's approval rating remains high at 74%, but only 55% in urban India believe Achhe Din are upon us, shows a Mint Instavani poll. Also on the show, Ratan Tata talks about the birth of the Indica, how he got land for Nano in Gujarat in just 3 days, and also his struggles with Hindi in school. And an exclusive chat with Tiger Woods on what golf needs to do to take off in India. All of that and more coming up for you in just a bit, but on to the action on the Lal Street. Major indices were stuck in a tight range for the third straight day, and the bulls and the bears continue to engage in a bit of tug of war. The Nifty lost about 20 points. It's now moving closer to the 7,900 level. Ditto for the Sensex, which was down about 50 points, but the index is still comfortably above the 26,000 mark. Banking stocks the main culprits today, with the bank index losing about 1%. So that was the story as far as the equity markets were concerned. On to Mint Street, where the rupee gave up its early morning gains to end the day above 66.60 to the dollar. A renewed dollar demand from importers leading to the weakness in the Indian currency. And oil prices continue to fall as there is a rise in US inventories, which is adding to a deep global supply glut. Investors seem to have discounted the possibility of OPEC doing anything to cut production at its meeting later this week. Brent lower by about 1%, trading close to $44 a barrel. NYMEX is down by about 1%. It's trading now at about 40.85. Despite the falling prices, OPEC, as I said, is not expected to stray away from its stance of maintaining its high output as it looks set to defend market share against producers like Russia
and North America. Meanwhile, gold prices have come down after 2 consecutive days of gains due to a strengthening dollar. That was a wrap of all the market action, but the top story this evening, Tamil Nadu in its capital city, Chennai, reeling under the impact of the worst rain scenes in the last 100 years. Scenes of devastation across Chennai. Thousands have no power, communication lines are down, and almost all the major roads are waterlogged. The airport is shut now till the 6th of December. Around 700 people are stranded at the airport. Many trains have been cancelled. The Indian Army, the Navy, the Air Force and the Disaster Response Force have been pressed into action. The Met Department predicts no relief for the city as rainfall is expected to continue over the next 72 hours.
I said 3 days and then thereafter another up to week, but it reduced in intensity.
So the Met Department predicting more rain for the beleaguered city of Chennai. Anna Salai or Mount Road is one of the busiest roads in the city. CNBC TV 18's Jude Sunnett spent the morning there and showed us how the city's roads have been choked by the rains.
Now, just to give you an update as to how things stand at the moment, now believe it or not, we're standing on Mount Road, also known as Anna Salai, which is one of Chennai's most arterial roads, the heart and soul of Chennai really. And as you can see, the road is completely flooded. Access has been cut off. Remember, this road connects North Chennai with South Chennai, and to my far end, you can see South Chennai completely flooded. There's absolutely no access. This road really is the heart and soul of Chennai, like I just said. In fact, you can see the metro rail in the background also, which, you know, is the major connectivity corridor taking form and shape along this road. Now, the problem really is in the far end, if my camera could zoom in, you can clearly see that it's the Adyar River that has overflowed, it's reached the road, and the river has kind of become one with the road itself. Now, that essentially is the problem here, which has resulted in this road being completely flooded. And if the camera could pan farther to my right, you clearly see how most people who live in these areas have been rendered completely homeless. Now, these people are in a state of uncertainty. They don't know what exactly is happening to them. They don't know what the immediate future is going to be like. But all they know right now is that their homes are gone. This place is in space, and it's a situation of grave uncertainty as it stands. So the rains have eased off for the moment, but we don't really know what the situation will be like. The weatherman says the rains are here to stay, but for now, one thing's for sure, these roads like these are completely cut off, and we're waiting to see how the situation pans out as the day goes by. We'll keep bringing you those updates, but for now, it's back to you in the studio.
And in Velachery, which is one of the worst hit areas of Chennai, CNN-IBN's Deepa Balakrishnan reports how police are using boats to evacuate stranded residents.
We are near the Velachery station where people are struggling with knee-deep water. Some of the areas are in fact inundated so badly, almost 10 feet of water, we are being told by police officials who are on rescue operations. People here who are leaving their homes and going on to other towns hoping that 5-day reprieve will hopefully help them in some way. Sir, tell me, I believe you've been working for quite some time.
Yes, ma'am. There was so many problems in Madibakam area, Ramnagar. There was no emergency needs also, no police, no helpless. All people are very helpless. Lot of strugglers.
And a small child, you're carrying her along to the station now?
Yes, ma'am. Nearby 3 kilometers, I am like walking like this. Lot of snakes are in ground floors. We are not staying. This is very, very dangerous. So we feel better. We are leaving from that place.
Right, you can see people leaving their homes and trying to move on to better areas. Some of them actually going now to this railway station, which is just a little ahead. Of course, they have to wade through nearly waist-high water, but they are trying to brave that flood. People moving their families away from their areas when they see 7 feet high water, that they don't want to keep their families in that risky situation, and they're moving their entire families away for a few days, as you can see right here in Velachery.
And our reporters there bringing us updates from the ground through the day here on CNBC TV 18. Now, Chennai prides itself as the Detroit of India. It is the largest manufacturing hub for auto companies, and these heavy rains have brought the industry to its knees. Ford, Daimler, Nissan, TVS Motor, Hyundai, Renault, Nissan, Ashok Leyland all use Chennai as a manufacturing base. Now, Ford, Renault, Nissan and Hyundai have announced the shutting down of their factories due to heavy flooding. TVS Motors announced just yesterday that it's lost about 15,000 100,000 units in November sales due to the floods. It's not just the auto industry. Natco Pharma has announced the suspension of work at its Chennai plant due to flooding. IT majors, whether it's Infosys, TCS, Cognizant and HCL Tech, even Accenture, have shut down their Chennai offices, and their backup contingency plans are in operation at this point in time. Leather companies in the Ranipet area have come to a standstill. All factories are shut. Real estate activity has come to a grinding halt, and things are not looking up, with rains being forecast over the next 48 hours, Kritika.
But Shireen, there's some light in the darkness. Telecom companies have decided to step up during these trying times and are offering free calls and internet services to the thousands of people stranded across Chennai. As per the telecom minister's announcement, state-run BSNL will not charge any fee for a week. Bharti Airtel has announced that auto credit of up to 30 rupees talk time, free of cost credit of 10 minutes, that is for Airtel to Airtel calling, and free of cost credit of 50 MB mobile data for its prepaid customers will be offered. Reliance Communications is also offering customers 10 minutes free talk time to any network across the country, along with a 50 MB free mobile data for prepaid customers. Vodafone on its part has a similar offering along with a free 100 MB mobile data. But not all is gloomy right here on India Business Hour. Shireen, our other big story is one of hope.
Well, I think given what's going on in Chennai, there is a need of little bit of hope on this show and for everybody. There's more in common between Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg than both of them being college dropouts who went on to create one of the biggest tech companies of their decade. The co-founder and CEO of Facebook has written a letter to his daughter vowing to donate 99% of his and his wife's shares in Facebook to charities spread over their lifetime. The stake will be transferred into the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, which will look to work towards children's welfare across the world. CNBC's Julia Borstein has more.
It was quite a way to celebrate Giving Tuesday and the birth of their daughter Max a week ago. Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan announcing they'll give 99% of their Facebook shares to charity during their lives. Those holdings are currently worth about $45 billion. The couple creating the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative saying, quote, our initial areas of focus will be personalized learning, curing disease, connecting people, and building strong communities. In a filing, Zuckerberg revealing some of the details of his plan and reassuring investors that there won't be a big stock sale. Zuckerberg saying he intends to retain his majority voting position in Facebook stock for the foreseeable future, saying he plans to, quote, sell or gift no more than $1 billion of Facebook stock each year for the next 3 years based on a pre-established trading plan. Now, Zuckerberg already has a well-established record of philanthropy, 5 years ago signing on to Warren Buffett's Giving Pledge, committing to give away more than half his fortune to charity. Just earlier this week, Zuckerberg signed on to Bill Gates' Breakthrough Energy Coalition to give towards a clean energy fund.
Well, that's Julia Borstein, and corporate titans around the world reacting to that news. Melinda Gates has written, and I quote, the first word that comes to mind is wow. The example you're setting today is an inspiration to us and around the world. Zuckerberg's colleague Sheryl Sandberg says, and I quote, his is a beautiful letter and an incredible commitment to future generations. Congratulations, Mark and Priscilla. This is the start of another amazing chapter in your lives. British tycoon Richard Branson says, and I quote, so wonderful to read such a magical letter. Commitments like this from the next generation of young entrepreneurs means the world can and will sort out its remaining problems. Exciting, positive days ahead for your daughter and all children and grandchildren. But moving on to the big CNBC TV 18 exclusive story tonight. The government's fiscal condition may be okay for now, but the big elephant in the room is 7th Pay Commission, which once implemented could throw the fiscal math out of gear, or at least cause some trouble for the government. At CNBC TV 18 learns the Finance Ministry is not too keen on factoring in the entire 74,000 crore rupees projected by the 7th Pay Commission recommendations in the next year's budget. Nantara joins us now with the details. Nantara, what is the North Block plan? I understand that the Finance Ministry is keen on pruning down the outgo on account of the 7th Pay Commission's recommendations.
With an eye on the fisc, I understand the government may try to cut down on the impact of the 7th Pay Commission. The impact of that is seen on the union budget at 74,000 crore rupees, and what the government is keen to do is to cut that by a massive 15 to 25,000 crore rupees to ensure that the impact actually is curtailed at 50 to 60,000 crore rupees. So how is this going to be done? What I understand from my sources is we can expect some action as far as the housing goes. Sources sources in the finance ministry indicating that when you go to the 900 pages of the report, there is certain notional spending that the government has to incur on the housing front, and that doesn't actually have to be done, so we can expect some saving over there. I also reached out to Justice Mathur for a conversation on this, and he said when they increased the salary, when they increased the pension, what the 7th pay panel had recommended was also a proportionate cut in the HRA allowance. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Central Exchequer is able to ensure this cut. Second place where we can expect some cuts, where there is scope, is actually to do with allowances. We have seen the 7th pay panel clubbing a lot of them together. What I understand from my sources is that the finance ministry may not accept all of the allowances that have been recommended, so some may never be rolled out. And what I also understand is that some may be deferred. So once the 7th pay panel comes into effect from the 1st of January of 2017, don't expect all allowances to be applicable from there on. It could be perhaps in the fiscal year after that, or even in the fiscal year after that. So there will be allowances that are going to be deferred, but clearly the Central Exchequer keen to cushion the blow. It was being talked about how this was going to rise to 3% of GDP. It is currently around 1.6%. So all eyes on North Block and how it's going to achieve this.
Joining us now for a reaction on the CNBC TV 18 exclusive is the chair of the 7th Pay Commission. Mr. Mathur, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18, so appreciate your time. Let me start by asking you for your first comment on what we are picking up from sources within the government at this point in time. What top government officials seem to be suggesting to us that payment for allowances may perhaps be staggered, and at this point in time the Pay Commission recommendations and the payout will be confined to the salary and the pension component, and also suggesting that some of the perks that the 7th Pay Commission has recommended are notional and may not be accepted by the government. How would you respond to this information, sir?
Well, I have no idea what recommendation they are going to respond and what not they are going to respond. But I am very happy if that is the attitude of the government, that they will immediately release the salary and the pension part, because about 46 lakh of people will be benefited by the pay hike, and similarly the greater pay hike will be to the pensioners that constitute almost 52 lakh people. So I am very happy that they have decided to release them immediately, and they can consider of releasing the allowances after some time, looking to their financial position. However, we have tried to make it that the recommendation should be well within the kitty of the government, but we don't know how much of the actual burden will be on the exchequer. Only our rough estimate is about 1,02,000 crore, but perhaps on the calculation of the allowances it might exceed a bit also.
Okay, so you're saying that on the basis of the allowance component it may exceed the estimation, and perhaps the government then, given the fiscal pressures at this point in time, is well within its right to stagger the payment of the allowances. What has been the past precedent, Justice Mathur?
Well, past precedent have been government always delayed the payment of the allowances, payment of the recommendations in toto. The government do make certain modification one way or the other, and it depends upon the government that if their finances are well within the reach, then they can release forthwith or they can defer it for some time also. In past also, the reports were always belated, and sometime in last 6th Pay Commission it took 2 years to implement them. But I am happy that they are going to implement the present Pay Commission's recommendation, which is given to them well within the time. The government has sufficient time to react. See, they have to bring this Pay Commission's recommendation with effect from 1/1/2016. We have given them a report in the early November. So I think government has sufficient time to react on that.
Sir, when you made that estimate of 74,000 crore rupees, that was the budgetary spend that you factored in as part of the Pay Commission. Did you factor in the allowances as well?
We did, of course. That's why we roughly estimated to be 1,02,000. But actually, the allowances part is such a tricky thing that it depends upon your basic pay. And sometimes someone has some basic pay, another fellow has sometimes other basic pay. So exactly working out is very difficult. So we have, on average, we have taken it that it should cost the government to the extent of 1,02,000 crore. But it may exceed if the calculation take deeper.
Well, the government may have an unenviable task of managing its finances, but what's clearly come as a blessing in disguise is the whopping 66,000 crore rupee dividend payout made by the Reserve Bank of India this year. And while this figure was definitely way more than the dividend payouts made by the central bank in the past, it will not be an aberration, at least for the next 2 years, says Raghuram Rajan, speaking exclusively to CNBC TV 18's Lata Venkatesh. The governor says that the central bank will have enough liquidity to maintain its credit rating despite such a high payout.
What we have to do is figure out how much we need for our balance sheet. Okay? Of the profits we make every year, we pass on a certain amount to the government, and in the past we were taking some to our balance sheet as sort of squirreling away capital for the future. Okay? Now, this was done under a variety of rules of thumb, arrangements, board-approved arrangements, of course, but which didn't amount to a significant whole. So what we did was we asked Mr. Maligam, or one of our most respected board members, to essentially figure out how much capital we needed on a sort of modern first-rate basis, using the methods that were used elsewhere. I think they did a quick job, his committee, in trying to estimate what capital we needed, and concluded we could pay out our dividends, our profits, for the span of 3 years, while still maintaining enough capital buffer to protect the bank against all these things. Most recently, we have done a value at risk analysis of the bank's balance sheet to understand how much capital we need. This is state-of-the-art, checked with people like BIS. In fact, we are one of the few banks ahead of the curve on this. And we have come up with some numbers. And the board has said that you will keep this amount. Essentially, it would like the highest rating. Okay. Enough capital to get a AAA rating in international markets, and a buffer in case there is a need, there is systemic risk that we need to pay down, and the rest can be paid out to the government. That still allows us enough room to pay the 67,000 crores that we paid out this year. However, the precise contours of the agreement on dividend has to be finalized with the government.
Well, that's a dividend bonanza courtesy the Reserve Bank of India, providing the fiscal cushion to the government. Now, even as exports continue to be in the red, FDI inflows into India remaining robust, showing an annual rise of 13% in the April to September period. Computer hardware and software receives the highest share of FDI, followed by trading. Data released by the DIPP shows. But interestingly, the defense sector, the flagship sector of the Make in India campaign, is yet to receive a single dollar in the first 6 months of this fiscal. Rituparna Bhuyan and Arib Sherwani bring us the highlights.
India received FDI inflows worth $16.63 billion in the April to September period, an annual uptick of 13% compared to $14.7 billion received in the same period last year. Data released by the DIPP shows that the computers and hardware sector got the highest share at $3 billion, which is 6 times compared to the same period last year. The second position goes to trading, which saw FDI inflows of $2.3 billion in the April to September period. Significantly, the total FDI in trading for the 12 months of FY15 stood at $2.7 billion. The third position goes to the auto sector, which saw FDI inflows of $1.464 billion, an annual growth of 46% compared to $1 billion a year ago. The services sector, that includes banking, insurance, and other allied services, stood at the fourth position and saw FDI inflows worth $1.463 billion, a growth of 21% compared to $1.2 billion in the same period last year. In the fifth position is construction development, which includes infrastructure activity. FDI inflows here stood at $977 million, an annual uptick of 12.3% over $877 million. But telecom and defense disappointed with their performance. FDI inflows into telecom in the April to September period stood at $569 million compared to $2.46 billion last year. That is an annual dip of nearly 77%. Foreign investors completely stayed away from the defense sector, which has been promoted as the most lucrative sector in the Make in India campaign by the government and has seen big-ticket reforms. In New Delhi with Rituparna Bhuyan, Arif Sherwani.
Well, that's the data on FDI. But on to news from Deal Street. Wipro will acquire German-based IT consulting firm Cellnet AG in an all-cash deal worth 73.5 million euros. Kritika has been tracking that. Kritika, what does this mean for Wipro?
So Wipro has been looking at expanding within manufacturing and auto Shireen, and this pretty much gives them a significant leg up, specifically in the Europe sector, in the Europe geography. Now, to give you the details as far as the financial contours are concerned, it's a fairly cheap deal, because if you look at what they get, they are paying about 73.5 million euros, but they also get almost a 50 basis point incremental margin growth. However, in the initial couple of quarters, there will be a little bit of a margin hit, roughly about 20 to 50 basis points, but that is only after March 2016. So perhaps in the first quarter of the next fiscal, there will be a little bit of an impact. But so far, analysts are suggesting that this is certainly a positive. And remember, Wipro had made an acquisition just earlier this year within the consulting space. So this gives them a leg up in consulting when compared to Accenture, IBM, TCS and Infosys that have been leading in consulting. And given that consulting is a high margin business, Shireen, this works very well for Wipro. And more importantly, this pretty much shows that their run rate of one tiny mid-cap deal per year is now going to two. Hopefully, we'll see a large big banger acquisition coming in anytime soon.
Well, that's Wipro, so watch out for that. Another acquisition. Now, I was a Hindi dud during my school days. This candid admission comes in from none other than Ratan Tata. The Baroda Management Association honored him, and he spoke there from the birth of the Indica to how he acquired the land for the nano factory in Sanand in 3 days. Here's Ratan Tata in a freewheeling conversation on a CNBC TV 18 exclusive.
I brought the Indian car to India, in a manner of speaking, when everyone said it couldn't be done. History will say whether that was vision or stupidity. I know that I'm not talking of the Nano, I'm talking of the Indica. I remember those days when it came close to the launch. My foreign friends told me that, I was doing a very stupid thing, that you had to have a joint venture, you had to have a licensing agreement. Nobody had done this from scratch before. But as the launch became imminent, like a few weeks before, even my friends wanted to distance themselves from me because they wanted to distance themselves from failure. We were a car company, and then Nano, where we had to put the whole car factory on the back of trucks and move out of West Bengal. So we were like an orphan without a home. Many chief ministers offered us the possibility of locating a new plant in their state, but couldn't guarantee the space. And we could see a repetition of what took place in West Bengal happening in another state. One state, one chief minister made a difference. He said, you come to Gujarat and I will make land available. I didn't believe that that could happen because we had just gone through a trauma. So I said, how long would it take? He said, 3 days. So on the one hand, if you didn't believe him, you'd know you were wrong in 3 days. And if he succeeded, you solved your problem. So I agreed, and I parked myself in Ahmedabad. And in 3 days, he delivered everything he said. In the coming years, some of you are going to be leaders in India in one form or another, either in industry or in government in some way or other. Please do not lose sight of the fact that there's a disparity and there's misfortune around you. Don't become impervious to this. as you grow. India needs people that are sensitive to this. We have lost some of the sensitivity that we should have. And try all, as you go through, to make a difference in what you do, because we have a great country with a great potential, and I'm sorry to say that we are not availing of the potential that the country offers us. We have a large population, we have to feed them, we have to give them jobs, we have to look after their health, and unless each of us takes that little bit of responsibility to make that happen, to make India a better place, we will just do something for ourselves.
आप स्कूल में कैसे विद्यार्थी थे?
मैं दब्बू था.